Welcome to the Rewards Master. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to rank lounges in the United States and abroad from my own personal experience based on 4 criteria: convenience, decor, food, and crowding. Now, I travel to a lot of lounges. In fact, last year, my spouse and I went to 102 lounges, and this year we're already on track to maybe even beat that number. So I have a lot of experience in lounges. I'm not going to talk about the ones I haven't been to, just the ones that I've been able to experience myself. So we're going to talk about those together. If you would hit the like and subscribe button, and let's look at them. So as I'm doing this evaluation, we're going to look at 9 different lounge systems, or lounge groups, I guess you might say. We're going to look at some of the airline lounges, and we're going to look at some of the lounges that are available through some of the transferable currency cards. So we're going to examine things like business class lounges. So those are the lounges that you get when you buy a business or first class ticket, and you get special access only if you're flying in that cabin. We're also going to look at Priority Pass from 2 different angles. So we're going to divide it up into 2 different groups: Priority Pass internationally and Priority Pass in the United States. We're going to look at all of the different U.S. airline, or at least the major U.S. airline, different lounges that they offer. So we're excluding Alaska. I haven't been to an Alaska lounge, so I can't make an evaluation. We're excluding things like Air Canada. We're going to look at the United Clubs. We're going to look at the Delta Sky Clubs and the American Airlines Admirals Clubs. And then, of course, this wouldn't be complete if we didn't consider the Capital One Lounge, the Chase Sapphire Lounge, and the American Express Centurion Lounges. So all of those represent, I think, the majority of lounges that people access based upon what credit cards that they have. And the reason I wanted to dive into this is because, to me, it is one of the best perks you can get with a credit card. I use lounges, as I said, all the time, and it just makes the flying experience infinitely better in my own experience and in my own evaluation. So as I've experienced all of these different types of lounges because of cards, I've had American Express cards and Capital One and Chase cards, and I've had all 3 of those major airline cards, and then access to Priority Pass and even Priority Pass restaurants. I've had vastly different experiences in them. So how would I evaluate these? Well, I used a number of criteria. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk about things like decor. I'm going to talk about things like food. I'm going to talk about convenience, and I'm going to talk about crowding. Now, what I found when I kind of added this all together after making an evaluation in each of those categories for each of these lounges, I found that several of them were tied. So in order to kind of produce a tiebreaker between them, what I did is I more heavily weighted some of those categories than others. And this is just a personal thing for me. I fly a lot. I don't fly just 3 or 4 times a year for vacation with long layovers. I fly for work. I fly to consult, I fly for personal reasons to see family, and I fly to take vacations. So because I'm in the air more than some people and often have very short layovers, some of those categories are more important to me than others would be, and your evaluation may be different. So what I consider to be the most important are convenience and crowding, because, no airline club that you go in is going to have the best food in the airport. You can go now, the Priority Pass restaurant benefit is really helpful in that, but most people don't have that. So if you're considering your meal options, you're always going to get something better out in the terminal. That's not the main reason I go. The main reason I go is also not the decor. Now that matters, but I'm not feeling like I'm just there to gawk at the wallpaper or to look at the artwork on the wall. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing for me is, can I get into the lounge, and can I get there in a timely manner and still get to my next flight? So in the cases where these lounges are tied in my scoring model, then I'm going to weight it heavily based upon my own experience on crowding and convenience, accessibility. So let's start at the bottom of the list. At number 9 on the list is priority passes in the United States. And I don't think anybody's pretty much going to disagree with this, because priority passes in the US are just, in fact, the worst lounge I've ever been to was a priority pass lounge in Maui. It was just awful. I mean, the decor was terrible. There was just very few food items, just a few snacks, like basically crackers and water is about all you get. Now, some are better than that. Some of the escape lounges, they're okay, but that's kind of the best you get usually in the US is okay. So when it came to decor, when it came to food, when it came to convenience, and when it came to crowding, they're just bad in every single one of those categories. In fact, some of them don't even have a bathroom inside, which is very, very, very frustrating. So the scores came out to a 2 for convenience, a 2 for decor, a 2 for food, and a 1 for crowding. Those are just atrocious numbers, which rank them as their total score was a number 7, which just puts them at the very bottom of the barrel when it comes to lounges in the United States. And that's really sad, because on a lot of cards, that is the only airport lounge access that you receive with the card. And so you're getting the worst of the worst with US priority pass lounges. Number 8 on the list will be surprising to a lot of people, and I'm sure many of you are going to disagree, but you got to remember that the things that matter most to me are convenience and whether or not it's super crowded. So I love to go into American Express Centurion lounges, but when I go in there, I experience a great decor. I gave them a 5 on that. I experience really good food most of the time. I gave them a 4, right under the top number when it comes to their food choices and the quality of the food. But it's when it comes to convenience and crowding that their numbers just absolutely tanked in my evaluation. Because convenience, there's one in an airport, and it's all the way across the airport most of the time from my gates. So, oftentimes it's closer to the international terminal or something like that. So I have to go 20 minutes to get over there. Sometimes because of the crowding, I have to wait 20 minutes or 30 minutes or sometimes an hour because I don't have a Centurion card, so I don't just get in. So it's just, they get a 2 when it comes to convenience, and they get a 1 when it comes to crowding. And I think most of you who've been, it's not a big deal if you have a big long layover and you need to spend 4 hours somewhere. That's cool. But in my estimation and in my travel style, that is seldom the case. I need to pop in for 30 minutes and get out. And that just never, ever works because of where they are and how extremely crowded they are. So number 8 on my list is the American Express Centurion Clubs. At number 7, there was a tie, so I had to do a tiebreaker. And so at number 7, with a score of 13, was the Chase Sapphire Lounges. Now, I've only been to one of these, so this is a very limited evaluation. But the one that I went to was in JFK this year, and it was a very, very nice lounge. When it comes to decor, it actually got the same scores as the American Express Centurion Lounge, a 5 on decor and a 4 on food quality. The food was very good. I would have put it at a 5, but they just didn't have quite as many menu options on their order list that you had in the buffet. It was fine, but it wasn't quite up to the standard of the ones that get a 5 on this list. So that they're very, very, very nice lounges, but again, they're plagued by the same problems as American Express. And just from my limited experience, I gave them a 2 on accessibility, same thing, 1 in an airport. And then the thing where they did just a little bit better than the Centurion lounges was crowding. It's still bad. We still had to wait to get in there. and there was a long line. So I gave them a 2 on crowding instead of the 1 that I gave the Centurion Lounge. So they did just a little bit better. I put them at number 7 on the list, although they're fantastic lounges. If you have a long layover, if you only travel a few times a year and there's one in your local airport, maybe you can get there early. But as far as on a layover, if you don't have a long time, it's just not convenient at all. So that's where I put them at number 7 on the list. Now, the other one that tied with them at number 6 is international priority pass lounges. Now, somebody's going to say, well, some of these are just outstanding. And I've been to a number of them, and some of them very much are. So they made it here to number 6 because trying to average all the ones that I've been together, they're really good. I mean, overall, the things that matter to me on the crowding and the convenience matter a little bit less internationally, because usually you're having to get to the airport quite a bit early and your layovers may be just a little bit longer. But when I did an honest evaluation of them, these are the numbers I came out with. On decor, I give them a 4. They're very nice usually. And on food, I give them a 3. Their food is a whole lot better than it is in the United States at Priority Pass lounges, for the most part, at least in my own experience. Now, on convenience, I give them a 3 because usually they're located pretty close to where you're going to be flying out from. And then on crowding, I gave them a 3 as well, because they can be crowded, but I can't remember having to wait very long, maybe 10 minutes at one before. So the fact that I have had to wait before and wait a couple of times, but it's a short wait. So I give them a 3, kind of right in the middle on that. And that brings them to a total score of 13, which puts them at 6 on my list, since they tied with the Sapphire Lounges, and they're just a little bit more convenient and a little bit less crowded. Now, the next 4 on my list all tied, and they all got the same score of 14. And when we add their numbers together, they arrived at that score because of different placement in each category. So that's why I divided them up the way that I did. At number 5, I put the Capital One lounges. I love Capital One lounges. Their decor is out of this world. It is a solid 5 out of 5. Their food is out of this world. It's also a 5 out of 5. But what really pulled their score way down, in fact, they would have been higher on this list, except that now, and this would have been different, say, 2 years ago. In fact, 2 years ago, every time I went to the Capital One Lounge, I just got right in. Now, they're not terribly convenient. They get a 2 on convenience because they just have one in an airport. And you know, if you're in Denver, I'm always flying through the other terminal, and then I got to go all the way over to the other one to go in there. In DFW, they're in the D terminal, so it takes a little while to get there from the other terminal. So their convenience isn't great, but their crowding has just gotten bad. In fact, now I also give them a 2 on that because you have to wait, and sometimes you have to wait a significant amount of time because so many people have the Capital One card, the Venture X, and so they have started to implement changes to the Venture X because of that reason. Now, I'm probably not going to keep the Venture X card anymore because of that, because that's the only reason I really had that card, was to get into that lounge sometimes. So to me, it's a really, really fantastic lounge, but really, really hard to utilize. So it makes it to number 5 on this list. Now, as I said, the next 3 all tied with it. And it was difficult for me to determine which of these was better, because the next 3 are all airline-specific lounges. And I've had access to Delta, United, and American lounges for years. I had the United Club card for probably 5 or 6 years and went into just dozens, if not hundreds, of United Clubs. I currently have the Delta Reserve, so I get into both Centurion Lounges and Delta Sky Clubs with that. And I currently have the American Executive card. So I have lots of experience with these. And so how I'm going to rank them is this. At number 4, I put the United Clubs. Now, remember, they all had the same ultimate score, but they scored in different ways. The United Club's strengths are not the same as the previous awesome clubs we've talked about on this list. They get a 3 on decor, and they get a 2 on food. Sometimes I've had really good food in a United Club, but not, I wouldn't say across the board I have. In fact, the best thing I remember from all of my dozens and dozens of trips to United Clubs was they had some really good soup. And sometimes they had good salads, and sometimes they have decent things on the buffet. But for the most part, no, I just can't say they have good food. So I gave them a 3 on decor and a 2 on food. But where the United Club shines, and if you're flying United, and yes, that is the criteria. And you notice in this list, I didn't make accessibility based upon what card you have one of the criteria, because to me, a lounge is supposed to be exclusive. So all of these, I mean, you got to be flying business class to get into a business class lounge. You got to have the American Express Platinum or whatever to get into the Centurion Lounge. They all have their own exclusivity requirements. So that's not part of this. This is how convenient, how helpful, how good, how quality is the lounge. And United really shines in this, because when it comes to accessibility, there are 5. I mean, if you're flying United, there's a United Club close in any of their hubs. And when it comes to crowding, I give them a 4, because I can't remember ever when I had the card. Now, yes, if you just have that 1-day pass that comes with the Explorer card, sometimes they won't let those people in if the lounge is really busy. But the fact that they even issue those means that their lounges often aren't busy enough that they need to worry about it. But if you have the club card, I have never, ever had to wait to get into a United Club. So basically, they're lower than the others on the list because I just don't quite enjoy them as much as the ones that are higher on this list. But they got the same overall score of 14. The United Club comes in at number 4 on the list. At number 3 on the list, this one was really hard, because do you go with just a little bit better quality? Well, actually quite a bit better quality. Or do you go with a whole lot better convenience and crowding? And trying to be consistent with my philosophy in this, I'm going with the convenience and the crowding. So at number 3 is the Delta Sky Clubs. Now, the reason Delta ranks so high on this is not because of the thing that matters the most to me, which is accessibility and crowding. Their crowding is bad. I mean, you go through Atlanta, you may have to wait and wait and wait to get into a Delta Sky Club. So they receive a very low score of 1, same as the Centurion Lounges on that. But the reason they rank so high on this list is in every other area, they are so very, very good. For convenience, just like the United Club, they get a 5. And on food and decor, I gave them a 4. And that is just, to me, amazing for an airline-specific lounge, that they can match some of those really swanky lounges run by the credit card companies. But if you've been in many Sky Clubs, you know that many of them are very nice. I mean, they have an outstanding decor, they're beautiful, and their food. They just have more food and better food than the other airline-specific lounges. So I give them a 4 in both of those categories. Still come out at a 14, but scored in a very different way. And I put them here on the list because if I had to wait a little while to get into a Delta Club versus a United, just walking right in, I'm not sure I wouldn't be willing to wait if I had the time to do it. So I put them here at number 3 on the list, which then brings us to number 2 on the list, which is the American Airlines Admirals Clubs. And I know there are going to be many folks watching this video who are going to just tear me apart in the comments because I've been to Admirals Club and they are terrible and the food options aren't good. Well, I considered that, and I agree, sometimes the food options aren't good and sometimes there can be quite a few people in there. But here's the thing, on convenience, they get a 5. If you're flying American through their hubs, you're going to find one and you can pop in and pop out really, really quick. When it comes to decor and food, I tied them exactly the same as the United Club. They get a 3 on decor, and you say, yeah, but some of them have been, yeah, that's true, but they've been revamping some, and you know, some of their clubs they're all right. They're right in the middle. That's a 3. Their food, I gave a 2, but it's kind of a 2.5 maybe, because strangely, I've had some food that was so unimpressive in American Airlines clubs, but I've also, the best meal I remember from last year when we were flying through 102 different lounges was these shrimp tacos we had in the Phoenix American Airlines Club. I mean, it was just awesome. And then I've had some of the lesser memorable meals in American Airlines Admirals Club. So I didn't know how to average that together. I think they are trying to work on their food quality, so I only gave it a 2. But it still brought them out to a 14, tying those other 3 lounges, Cap One and Delta, and of course, United. But to me, they're very convenient. To me, I've never, ever waited, and I've been in these lounges 50, 60, 70 times, and I've never waited to get in when you have the executive card from Citi. And so to me, they're number 2 on the list because of what I value the most, which is not being so crowded I can't get in and being very, very convenient. And they are very convenient if you're flying American Airlines, which leads us to the number 1 lounge on the list, which is business class lounges and first class lounges. So if you're flying in a business or first class cabin, so if you bought a ticket with cash or with points and miles, and your seat is in a lay down seat and you're flying internationally, you will have access to a dedicated lounge for people in that cabin. And those lounges are just incredible. They are off the charts good. Whether you're talking about the flagship lounge for American, or whether you're discussing the United Polaris Lounge, or some of the lounges like Qatar's Lounge in Doha, or Emirates and down in Dubai, or whether, we've been to the Iberia Club there in Madrid. I mean, the Turkish Lounge in Istanbul. These lounges are fantastic. I mean, they are an experience in and of themselves because they often have food stations. Do you want Asian food? Then go to the Asian food station and somebody will make it for you. You want sandwiches? Go to the sandwich bar and someone will make it for you. There's always seating. They're huge. They're gigantic. So when it came to the scores, I gave them a 4 on convenience because usually, they're pretty close to the international terminal where you're going to be flying out of. So that was very helpful. When it comes to food and decor, I gave them a 5 on decor because they're beautiful. I gave them a 4 on food because, well, it just kind of depends on the one you're in. Many of them would be 5s. I mean, they would be 5 plus. I mean, they are just outstanding. But others are not quite so good, but pretty much always good. So I thought a 4 was a fair rating there. And finally, I gave them a 3 on crowding because they can be pretty crowded. But generally, I've not had to wait. In fact, I can't remember a single time I've had to wait to get in when I have a ticket in the right cabin. So to me, business class lounges that you access with your business or first class ticket are the best of the best. Well, that's my list. I'm sure that if you have different criteria or different things that matter to you, this list may not fit at all. But when it comes to prioritizing convenience and being able to get in quick and not have crowding, to me, this is an accurate list, at least in my experience. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What are your favorite lounges and why? Do some of these things matter to you? Do some of them not? Maybe you don't care so much about having to wait. Maybe you don't fly as often and you have longer layovers. That's okay. Everybody has a different travel style. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Consider the channel membership. It's only $2.99 a month, and I give a lot of benefits to our members, including dedicated videos, things like that. And also, if you would hit the like and subscribe button, I'd appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps the channel. We'll see you here next time. Have a great one.